Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit the share button for more videos like this.
Hey, shout out to BoxRepTv.
Yes, sir. Keyshawn Davis, Steven Nelson, and Jamel Herring. Man, talk to me about those guys, especially the young up-and-coming prospect of Keyshawn.
Keyshawn's a beast. Keyshawn's a beast. Like you got, some God-given talents from people, and then they, put themselves in positions to work to be something. And like Keyshawn, I could say, I'm not gonna call him the easiest one to work with. You know what I mean? But I mean, like there's people have passed and things they went through, and like there's a little bit of, he's got to trust you first. You know what I mean? And that's something that I was able to build with Keyshawn. And like he's got to trust you. You got to be all in. And but what I can say is he's also been around greatness. You know what I mean? So like he was a talent himself. First time I met Keyshawn was the first time I met Shakur. It was that was 2016. So both of them, were getting ready. They were on the Olympic team. Shakur was getting ready for 2016 Olympics, and Keyshawn was just kind of up and coming with the USA boxing team. And he was a little younger than Shakur. Shakur was the mega star then. His publicist Julie Goldstein, who's Bud's publicist. She bring him around, introduce. Because she was heavy affiliated with USA Boxing for a long time. And she was telling us all about Shakur. And I remember Shakur, like his first experience like in the ring with Bud. I remember he was 16 years old, wanting to get in there and spar with Bud so bad. Like, he just wanted to get in there, like do work. He was and mind you, at that time, Bud was a champion. He'd already beat Ricky Burns, and like, I can get in there, man. You can't even hit me. You ain't fast enough. Blah blah blah. Talking stuff. Bud was just like, nah. You ain't ready. Julie, she's publicist for Bud, also becoming a publicist for Shakur. Was just like, no, Shakur, you got to get ready for the Olympics. And he was like, man, he can't even hit me. Blah blah blah. He's too old. And he got in there, and Bud, bow, left hook to his right arm, bow, left hook to his right arm, bow, and he was just beating up his left arm, and like Shakur was moving around. Second round came around, bow, bow, bow. Shakur's right arm just dropped, and Bud looked at Shakur, and he was like, man, pick your hands up. And he was like, I can't. But I mean, it was a learning experience, like, like Shakur learned something from Bud that day, you know what I mean? And it didn't make him scared, like he ain't scared of Bud at all. Like, like he's a beat, like what Shakur's been able to come is because he was around Bud for so long. And Keyshawn is no different. You know what I mean? He's got just as much dog as anybody I've met as well. Like if you gonna bang with him, he's gonna get his licks right back. And he wants to prove a point. He wants to be a star. He wants to be in the limelight and in camera. He wants the big fight. You can give him a title fight today, he would. And like just kind of knowing that mixture of folks, like like I know Shakur and Keyshawn, because they were part of USA Boxing together for so long.
Right.
And they probably have no true desire to fight each other, but they in the same weight class. And I can say, Keyshawn's got enough dog in him to, if he had that opportunity, he'd probably take it.
I believe it.
Like he ain't scared of it. So seeing these guys grow from, like I said at that time, Keyshawn was younger than Shakur, and that was my first experience around. I think there's still pictures out. We took big group pictures of the Olympic team, around our camp and stuff like that, and they were just kids. Like I remember, I think it was Felix Diaz. We were in New York, and I'm around Coach K and Julie and Shakur, and we're just kind of thumbing through the city, after weigh-ins and stuff like that. I remember there was, Shakur had trouble getting into a restaurant. You had to be 21 to get in his restaurant. He weren't even old enough, and now you see him grow into a man, and like really manhandling. It's going to be no different from that with Keyshawn. Steve is, like one of our favorite, fighters. Grew up with Bud, and like that's been one of his main sparring partners for a long time. And Steve, is one of those fighters that fights. 175, 168. Heavier guy, bigger guy, and he's been around. He's had that opportunity to be around Bud pretty much his whole life. So you got these fighters that have opportunities to be around talent that a lot of people don't have. Like it's going to be unmatched. Like that's one reason we go to Colorado Springs is obviously the elevation, but I mean they also got the Olympic Training Center. Like depending on where you're at, not every town is a boxing town, so it's not like you're going to have quality sparring partners that are willing to come, want to come. If you're not paying them enough, or
Yeah.
it's just if they don't live there, it doesn't mean you're going to have And I can say the fighters that we've kind of brought up and the young fighters, they've been around. Keyshawn's had the element of being around Shakur, who's one of the top boxers of tomorrow, of today and
Yep.
tomorrow. You know what I mean? Shakur and Keyshawn have had opportunities to be around Bud, and they feed off each other. So I mean, all that young talent is going to be amazing. Jamel, like I've never worked directly with Jamel. It's just like pre camps in Omaha, or I've stopped out, in Colorado at times and stuff like that. But I know his work ethic was always there. Like he's one of those individuals that, again, is just going to grind, put his head down, and do the work. And he had that element of being around Bud and being around Shakur. And I remember seeing Shakur and Jamel spar before they actually fought. I mean, years and years ago. So I mean,
Yeah.
in my mind, I kind of, had an idea of how it would go, and seeing Shakur, like he ain't a kid, he ain't 16 no more, you know what I mean? Finally putting on some size and stuff like that, and he's going to be a problem for a long time to come. But like I said, that's the biggest thing they all have in common is having each other. One thing with Keyshawn is DB3, he's got his brothers, and Kelvin, done training camps with Kelvin. Same thing, and much bigger version, much taller. He's tall. Keon,
Yo.
the youngest one, who's probably going to be on the USA team, is the tallest.
Mm.
So I mean, one thing Keyshawn's got from him for himself is no matter where he goes in the world and where he works or who he works with, he's always got his brothers that all three of them can bang. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I said, like I remember my first camp that I did with Keyshawn, all three of them were there, and they're in Omaha. This is before we even went to Colorado, and I stayed back with DB3, Red, Bomac, Saul went with Amir Khan for the Kell Brook fight.
Mm.
And so I'm preparing them, getting them ready so we can leave for Colorado. And most of our sparring partners were either out of town, like like a lot of people we use consistently just weren't here.
Right.
So I was having to have them spar against one another, and you would have not thought they were brothers. I mean, the way they were banging with one another. But I mean, that dog is in them all. So, like I said, having that type of talent around you and being able to utilize and feed off of that is unmatched.